Welcome to the Escape Artist. On this week's vid, we're heading into the hills to tackle some ascents and descents of varying degrees. So some of the hills we're going to tackle are going to be fairly straightforward, others are going to be a bit more rutted out, a bit more advanced, so we're going to work through the do's and don'ts of that and how to get you up and down safely. So let's get to it. Once we've assessed the hill for our abilities and all the dangers, we need to think about the fundamentals of tackling hills up or down. I would say that the number one thing to consider is full commitment. If you're going to go up that hill, be committed to going up the hill. If you're going down the hill, be committed to going down the hill. No half measures, no, oh, I'm not too sure, because that's what will get you into trouble. The second thing that's very important is, and it's regardless of whether you're tackling a hill or sand or a water crossing, is that you must stand up. You must stand up. The control and balance of your bike is far greater when you're standing up. So when I'm giving this advice, please just take for granted that I'm expecting you to stand up while we perform the exercise. So that's paramount. 3, all of these skills that are required in all of adventure riding really, and especially things like ascents and descents, the skills that we have for these are perishable. What I mean by that is that if you don't use it, you lose it. So we need to be practicing these skills to keep ourselves fresh, so that when we do come across them, we can skip up the hill or descend down the hill with safety. So this is what I would consider a beginner's hill. It's on a slight incline, there's some ruts, there's some loose rocks. It's nothing too tricky, and if you've got confidence in yourself and your machine, you're going to get up there without too many problems. So the key to ascending a hill like this, we're standing on our pegs and we're leaning into the hill. Okay, we're leaning in and we're holding steady revs. You probably make it up here in second without too many problems. It's not steep enough to require first gear. Second gear, steady revs, and we're picking our path as we go. Okay, and that would be for beginners a really good hill to practice on, up and down, half a dozen times to get yourself confident on ascending and descending that hill. I'm not going to show you how to do that because that's fairly straightforward and most of you will have tackled this sort of thing. But if you're a strict beginner, that would be my advice. Come out and find yourself a hill like this that's a little bit tricky but not too much, and have a crack. So we've come a little bit further and we've reached our next hill. With this one I would consider probably an intermediate hill. It's fairly steep and it's got some pretty good ruts in it as well. I'll give you a look here. In this instance, you can't see what's up to the left there. The hill takes off up to the left. It can be a good idea to walk the hill because you don't know what you're facing up there, especially after you've had lots of rain. Ruts could swallow your bike maybe. So if you feel the need, don't be afraid to walk it. There's no shame in that. It's better than ending up with a bike on top of you or a broken leg or something. So let's have a look. You can see here as we come up on the left hand side, it's really quite deep and rutted, probably a little bit too rutted to be sitting in that. Sometimes it's a good idea to sit in the rut because then you've got nowhere to go. You're nice and wedged in the rut. This one's a little bit loose and a little bit too deep for that. Whereas on the right hand side, you can see a fairly decent worn trail and the camber goes off to the left, which is why it's rutted out so badly. Good idea in this instance to stick to the right hand side, and then we come up to this jump up here and things will probably change. So we've got this jump up here, and something to consider is that with the adventure bikes, they're really quite heavy. You're generally around 200 kilos, and if you're loaded up with camping, you could be pushing with you and your gear 270, 280. That's a lot of weight. And when you come up over this jump up, you're going to be giving it a little bit extra to get over, and what can happen is that the rut can send the bike in a path that you don't necessarily want to go to. In this instance, we want to stick to the right. It may throw us over to the left. There's very little you can do about that. You certainly don't panic. You just work with what you've got. If you need more revs, give it more revs and just try to get back onto that path as soon as you can. It might not happen at all. You might just end up going up the rough trail the whole way. But the aim is to get back on the path you're after. But if the bike sends you over there, you just got to live with it, I'm afraid. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so as I approach, I'm standing up. I've got my weight forward, picking my line, which is the right hand side. I'm just going to Only use the revs that I need. Here comes the jump up here. A little bit more herbs through there. It pushed us out of our path slightly. A few more revs got us back on track. Okay, so I'm descending the hill, the same hill this time. If I didn't know the hill, I would walk it just as I did going back up. I don't need to do that, obviously. I'm standing up. I've got my weight back. I've pulled the clutch in this regard because gravity's going to do enough for me as far as getting me down there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the skills that I've practiced over and over again, and I'm going to feather the front and rear brake so that the bike moves as slow as I can possibly get it to. As soon as you feel that rear wheel lock up, you release the rear brake and then reapply the pressure. And certainly if you feel the front wheel start to lock up, you definitely let it go a little bit. That's way too much pressure. Try and avoid that at all costs. So now we've got the little jump down here, and I want to end up over to the left, so I'm going up there. There we go. Save me heading into that rut over there on the right, which is not particularly nice. Clutch out and away we go. We've arrived at our last hill for the day, and this one is a hill that I'd consider probably just above intermediate as far as your skill level that's required. It's around about the same length as the last one we did. The ruts are a little bit deeper, a few more jagged rocks and things like that through it, but there's some distinct differences, even you'll be able to tell just from looking from there. The overgrown nature of this hides a lot of the hazards that are in it, so we'll sneak up the hill and have a look at those. So what we've got here are some really wide ruts, and in the bottom of them is bedrock, providing nice solid jump ups for us, as opposed to the other side. Over here you can see there's a fair camber on that gravel. So that gravel camber, what would need to happen there is you'd need to sit the bike right on the apex to get up there, and that's not impossible by any means, but what happens is if something goes wrong, if you stall the bike, or if you have to stop for any reason, your bike's sitting on the top there, the ground falls away on either side, and these adventure bikes are generally all really tall, so you go to stop and your feet won't touch the ground. From there, the bike, weighing 230, 240 kilos with all its baggage, falls onto an angle of around about 45 degrees, and you're not going to save that. There's only one place to go from there, and that's down. If you get pinned under that bike, sometimes there's no wiggle room, you can't get out. So in this particular instance, we're going to go on the left hand side. We're going to use that bedrock for traction, and we've got the safety of the bank on the left there. If we happen to stop, stall, we might lean up against the bank. That's not going to be the end of the world. On the other side, it's a little bit more precarious. So that's the sort of thing you need to look out for in these ones. It looks pretty innocent because it's all overgrown, but that's hiding quite a lot of hazards, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, let's give it a go. So I'm in first gear. I'm going to head to that left-hand side lane. I'm standing up, knees locked in, my weight's forward, revs as I need them, staying in the left on the nice hard rocks. There we go. Nice and easy. Now if we look at coming back down, if this was my first descent, I'd walk it because I can't see anything from here, and that could be really nasty. Obviously we don't need to do that because we just came up it. Now I'm going to be standing up, I'm going to be leaning back, I've got the clutch in, and I'm feathering both brakes. Okay, I'm making the bike do what I want it to do as best I can through brake control. Bike's got to keep moving. It's going to want to slide around under me a little bit, and you've kind of got to let the bike do what it wants to in some stages. Now I'm down on my butt now, guiding it through. I'm going to stand up as soon as I can, get my weight back, get back on both brakes, Here we go, down the big one. Nice. And here we go again, we're nearly there. Weight back onto the gravel, and away we go, clutch out, and off we go. Let's recap what we've done today. Assess the hill. Do you have the ability and the confidence to get up and down the hill safely? If you're unsure, walk the track and have a look. If you're going up the hill, we're standing on the pegs, we've got our knees locked in, and we've got our weight forward. If we're coming down the hill, we're standing on the pegs, knees locked in, and we've got our weight back. As we go up the hill, we're very easy on the revs, we're only using the revs we need to. What we don't want to do is have that back wheel spinning, that loss of traction and loss of control. Try our very best with the revs we have to just climb up that hill nicely. On the way down, if it's steep enough, we pull that clutch in and we're just squeezing the front and the rear brakes all the way down, guiding the bike down as slowly as we possibly can. It really doesn't matter how long it takes you to get down the hill, as long as you get down there safely. So take your time. That's about it for this week's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please click like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the Escape Artist. Bye for now.